What is up, y'all? We are back for episode 30. We are getting to the end. This is the second to the last Sunday that we have of the season, and I'm glad we're finally getting to the end. This season it's been entertaining. I will say that. It hasn't been boring. It's just it hasn't been the Love Island that we want to see. It's been a lot of forced shit going on, but it's been entertaining, though. I will say it has been entertaining. We've gotten a lot of drama. We've gotten a lot of storylines. We've gotten a lot of mess. But yeah, the season is finally coming to an end soon. But thank y'all, as always, for being here for me and being here with me. Make sure y'all continue to thumbs up the video, continue to drop the comments, and continue to share the videos. Go follow my TikTok. It is in the bio. I'm going to drop a little clip over there. As well as subscribe. We are literally, I think, 60 subs away from 11,000. Let's try and finish the season. Maybe with 12,000. Let's do it. I think we can, because we've gotten almost 4,000 in the last 3,000 in the last 6 weeks. So let's keep it going, but I'm not going to waste too much time. Let's get on into this episode because I was happy. It could be considered a boring episode because we're getting towards the end, which most of the episodes typically are. But I got what I wanted out of it, but we'll get to it. All right, so we get back from where we left off, which we got Chris and Huda. They're pretty much talking about the challenge and whatnot. And she ends up talking about how she was surprised that no other guys pulled her to kiss her. Because she's still open. Because Chris was like, why? She was like, because I'm still open. I'm like, why would any other guy pull you for a kiss? I'm like, you building something with Chris, but you want somebody else to go. That right there told me she don't really like him like that. No matter how much she's trying to act like she's changing, she don't really like Chris like that. Because we can see by the way she moves. We've seen Huda all season. And you can really only judge her by the way that she acts all season. And as we've seen, she's put on a facade coming home. There's a lot of things that she might be fooling a lot of people with, but real ones can see those signs that she's still the same person because she still does the same slick, shady stuff that she did earlier in the season. But just the way she moves in a relationship with somebody that she actually likes. We know how much she really liked Jeremiah. It's different than the way that she's pursued these other men. But she ends up stating that. And he says, like, I feel like we're getting stronger and we're getting deeper because you've expressed to me about your daughter and whatever. And he's talking about why. And I'm like, when he said that, I was like, she probably felt easy talking to you about it because maybe she looks at you like a friend. Because as we all know, she said when it comes to dating, that's the hard part. And we saw how long it took her to really open up and tell that to Jeremiah, which we all know she really wanted Jeremiah and she didn't want him to leave her, which is why she held off on telling why. And she was so forthcoming with him. And I don't think it's because she was trying to do something different. I think she just really doesn't really see it like that for him. But she then says that she doesn't feel weird telling him things and he's easy to talk to. Again, friend. Like, that's what I'm getting. But she then says that the most important thing in a relationship is having a best friend. I said, that's funny because Jeremiah tried to do that with you the day that you crashed the fuck out on him, which made him finally realize I don't need to be with you no more. And I just find it funny that she's now stating that now, which, again, proves to me that it's not really what she wants us to believe it is. But they start being corny, talking about these corny jokes and whatnot. But she then tells him that, well, she tells us that this is giving her hope that a real man actually exists out here. Like, real men actually exist out here. And she says that she wants to not jump into being super physical and lovey-lovey with him and is trying to do it the right way. I'm like, yeah, you can try and fool everybody else, but we know how you are, Huda. We know how you are. Like, her not trying to be lovey-dovey is because she don't really see it for him like that. We know how she could not get up off of Jeremiah. How she was always seducing. Every conversation they had, she finished it trying to literally get him to jump her. And she's not doing that with Chris, which tells me everything I need to know. But it's bedtime, and Amaya's pretty much telling Olandria and Chelley about her and Bryan's speakeasy moment. I was going to say conversation, but I mean, they had a conversation, but they definitely ended it talking with each other's mouth. But she then starts laughing, and they're chuckling with her because obviously she's giddy about it. And she was like, we ain't make no babies or whatever. Y'all was about to. But Bryan comes in the room with Pepe. He feeling good. Ace and Pepe sitting there looking like, yeah, he feeling good. And he's smiling all big. Y'all think Bryan is scamming? Maybe I'm delusional. Call me delusional. I feel like Bryan is probably one of the most genuine guys on this season. Like, there's nothing about him right now that's screaming to me that he's not genuine. And people want to say, oh, it's because he knows America loves Amaya. Are y'all forgetting that he stood up for her before the vote? He also pulled her for that first chat and told her the same stuff he's been reiterating to her, that he wants her to be herself. He's okay with her being all of what she is because that's what he likes. He said all that shit before the vote was revealed. He's the only one. But we'll get to it in a minute. But there we go. We'll get to it in a minute. I've done good, y'all. I haven't said essentially so far. But Amaya ends up asking Iris about her and Pepe. And Iris then says that they got to know each other, but they haven't really gotten too far yet. But he then tells Pepe then tells Ace that they mutually, him and Iris, mutually want to explore each other, and she's a badass. He loves saying that she's a badass. But everybody heads off to bed. The next day, everybody's making breakfast. Cierra's still there. We'll get to that in a minute. But everybody's making breakfast, and Amaya's telling Iris about how Bryan checks everything off of her list, like everything, and they kiss. Iris is like, wow. But the boys, they all bring the girls breakfast as normal. Taylor is actually planning a date without Ace telling him to do it. I said, damn, he really liked Clarke. Clarke, again, in my opinion, I feel like Clarke is low-key out of his league too, like Olandria, but I mean, shit. She's liking him for what we can see right now, but he's liking her. It's clear that he's liking her, but he's instructing Ace now on what to do, how to set up the date, what he wants to do, and Ace is just running around smirking. And you can tell Ace is proud. Like, he looking like he proud of his boy. He finally learning how to court somebody, finally. And it's like, did you really know how to court her? Or you just really didn't like Olandria like that? And I'm like, maybe he did. I feel like it's a little bit of both. But Ace, he's running around setting everything up. Amaya comes downstairs with Iris, and she sees what they're doing. So Amaya's now stalling. She goes back upstairs and is pretty much asking Clarke these most random questions, which would have given it off if I was Clarke. But she's sitting up there asking her, like, what's your favorite color? And Clarke is just sitting there answering it, like, not catching on to anything. But, I mean, that's essentially Clarke's vibe. Clarke is super chill. And you could tell she might be a little bit like, might be a little bit of air up there too. But Taylor's finally ready. He's laying down there. Ace is down there in a suit. Well, not a suit, but he got the jacket on. But Ace then goes upstairs to go pull Clarke, who's still up there with Amaya. And he's in there performing, takes her down the stairs, and Olandria was sitting in there too. I was like, this is interesting. I'm like, how is she thinking he's actually starting a date for her, and actually a real date? Because y'all know that shit that he pulled with Olandria that Ace was pretty much leading. Was it Ace that was leading the dance? Yeah, it was Ace. That wasn't no date. This was a date. This was a date. But Taylor brings her down there, and well, not Taylor. Ace brings Clarke down there, and Taylor's sitting there laying down there looking like his goofy self with that rose or that flower in his mouth. And Clarke looked good as fuck. Like, she looked good as shit. Like, she is a pretty girl, and she got a body on her too. She looked good. Got the heels on. I'm like, yeah, she out of his league, but he better enjoy it. He had two bad women after him. I'm like, do you realize what you got, Taylor? But she comes down laughing. Ace is essentially their waiter. There we go. Essentially, here we go. And Taylor pretty much asks her, like, is this your first picnic date? We find out that it is. And he's like, I tried to do my big one. And she says that she loves the reassurance. Like, she loves that he always reassures her. He's always initiating shit. A lot of the stuff that he never did with Olandria. And when he did, it was because of Ace. But she asked him, like, what are your plans after the show, essentially? And he was like, just basically going back home and just riding horses. Same old shit that he always does. And he asked her if she's ready for the country world. And she's like, I mean, I'm always be a girly girl. I'm a country girl, but not that country. And not a cowgirl, essentially. But it's a lot of dead air. But you can tell it's like kid love. Like, you can tell she, to a certain degree, is kind of on the same level with him. Which, I mean, it seems innocent. I'm still questioning if she truly really likes him like that. I feel like she does, but then again, I'm like, I don't know 100%. Because like I said, I feel like she out of his league. I feel like she might not date many men that are like Taylor. But then again, she's single, so maybe it didn't work. So Taylor, I can tell you, I do feel like he actually really likes her. You can tell just looking at how he looks at her and stuff. I do believe he actually really likes her. So he might have found the girl that he might need. Do I think it might last after the show? I don't know. Because I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of niggas in Clarke's DMs that she probably will entertain. That's just me speaking. And I don't, look, come on, look. But it's a lot of dead air. But she ends up telling us that she always wants somebody that reads her mind. And basically that's what he did. Like, he literally gave her a date. She woke up to a date. But we get Pepe and Iris. They're in soul ties talking about how, like, kids look like their parents. He tells us how comfortable it is with Iris. And he wants to continue to, like, talk to her and see if their connection grows into something more. They bonded over their dad's music and their love of movies. And we find out that he plays a bunch of instruments. So she tells him that he's interesting and she just wasn't expecting it. These two, it's forced. It's forced. We then move to Bryan and Amaya. They're matching, which I don't think that was coordinated, but they're matching. But they head off to the dock and they start talking about their families. They have a lot of commonalities. As we know, they're both Dominican. They have families that are from the same area in the Dominican Republic. We find out that she is a first generation born in America, and she's the first nurse in their family or in her family. And she said it's something that she holds close to her heart because it was hard. And I'm pretty sure it was. Anybody in the medical field, I have so much respect for y'all because being a doctor, being a nurse, there's so much that goes into it. And I have a lot of nurses in my family. A lot of my cousins and their women are nurses, a lot of them. But shout out to them, and shout out to Bryan too. I saw that Bryan went to business school at Harvard. If these two actually work outside, they're gonna be nice. They're gonna be nice if they end up getting married, God willing, if that's what works for them. And say they end up having kids, they're gonna be set. They're gonna be set, but we'll see. But he then says that he likes how smart she is, how ambitious she is, and she ends up stating how she appreciates how she can feel safe around him. And you can tell, and then he says too that he feels good if she ends up initiating another kiss. I was like, she's initiating it this time, which I wasn't too mad at this time because you could tell their vibe seems natural. It didn't seem like he was uncomfortable. Which to y'all thinking that he's scamming because he knows that she's the favorite, I don't think that. I feel like he's genuine. And you could tell their vibe just feels comfortable. It feels natural. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like, oh, I'm trying to win. It just seems like they enjoy actually getting to know each other. And that's what I got off of it. They kissed again. It was a very passionate kiss. He ends up telling us that he always stresses to himself that when he gets older, it's important to be with somebody who makes you feel young. Which... it's true. It is true. And he says that that's her. That's who she is. Her aura, her smile, her eyes light up. Everything he says is true. And he was essentially at this point, she's fitting the bill for me. I felt so much genuineness watching these two. And I always feel genuine conversations between the two of them. Which is interesting because we're going to go through the three options that she has. This one was the only one that felt natural. The other two definitely were forced. But we'll get to it. But, we get the narrator, Ian, I believe is his name. He tells us that Cierra has left the villa for a personal situation. Rightfully so. They pulled her. But what I thought of immediately when they did it, I said, I don't know if y'all clocked it, but if you didn't clock it, I'm going to bring it to your attention. And of course, the people that don't like talking about the hard stuff, the stuff that's actually happening in life, they're not going to like it. Because I get one every single time I talk about it. They in the comments. But, I find it funny, which, I'm not mad at them for doing it because they should rightfully do that, but y'all also need to do better with y'all's background checks. The fact that these fans are pulling up tweets and stuff and pulling up all this stuff that tells you that some of these people are problematic. Y'all don't do y'all's research. That's the whole point of background checks and screenings and stuff when you do TV shows. But them pulling Yulissa, yes, should have. Them pulling Cierra, yes, should have. But what's the common thing with those two? Those two are people of color. They're both women of color. You have Austin, who also, he, in my opinion, has more problematic things in his track record with his social media. A lot of it, which is why I've been on his head all season. Those that say, oh, well, you're hard on, yeah, I'm hard on him, because guess what? He's racist. He's racist as fuck, and he's very vocal about that. And if y'all didn't see what he did, he was on Instagram and went viral on Twitter and TikTok. He responded to a comment that somebody asked him on Instagram about him being racist and being a bigot in the house with a bunch of black people. And he gets up there and his explanation as to why he's not racist is because he has a black woman tattooed on him. Are you fucking insane? Are you insane? But what I'm meaning to state that for is because I find it interesting that y'all let the white man stay on the show the entire season, knowing that, because it's been brought up, y'all been looking at social medias and stuff, seeing Yulissa and seeing Cierra, but y'all didn't do nothing about him. I find that very interesting. But all the boys, and we moved to them. They're pretty much now talking to Nick because Nick now is single and Cierra's gone. And they're asking him how he's feeling and stuff. And he's like, he tells us that he's lost. And he's like, that was my strongest connection and it's gone. And now I have to figure out where to go from here. And he then says, he says that he wasn't expecting it. And then when I was sitting here thinking, I was like, and I told my sister, I said, isn't this interesting? Which goes back to Iris and Pepe too. What I said, like, go home. Go home. Like, if y'all strongest connection is here, go home. And it's not shocking. People say, oh, it's a game. I get that. But if it's a real connection, a genuine connection, like they trying to make it out to be, like Pepe and Iris did, you would go home. And you want to know why I say that? If y'all have been watching the show, I've been watching this season. I've been watching the U.S. show since season 1. I've seen some UK versions, and I've seen, I think, a couple Australian versions. Season 3 of this show, Josh and Shannon, y'all remember them? Josh's sister passed away during the show. God rest her soul. Rest in peace. She passed away. I think they were like almost at the end of their season, if I'm remembering correctly. She passed away. He left the show. Guess what? Shannon, his connection on the show from the beginning to that point, she left with him. That's how you know that was a genuine connection. They dated for a while after the show too. That's how you know that was a genuine connection. So if you really are like so gung-ho about these people leaving, if you really have a connection with them, go home. But the fact that they haven't, Iris and Pepe haven't left, and Nick, that proves they don't really like them like that. And we know Nick don't really like Cierra like that, but we'll get to that in a minute. But he then says that, and Pepe ends up asking him, like, how are you going to explore this? And he's quiet, essentially, at this point. It's very, very quiet while he's sitting there trying to get an answer out. And he says he doesn't know. I'm like, you know. You know. But then we then move to the scammer. The first scammer, the most obvious scammer, Zach. He's upstairs with Amaya. And he ends up stating that he wanted to pull her because he hasn't spoken to her since they had squashed their beef. And he felt like there was something between them. And he feels like he still cares about her. I said, nigga, shut up. Shut up. Just say that you care about that money. And you know that she is your walking check. That is your check that you know you need to go cash. And that's why you're here. That's why you're talking to her. And he ends up stating that out of all the girls, she understands him the most. And he understands her the most. Nigga, are you crazy? If you really felt that way, you would have been able to tell her your boundaries the first day you met her, and even not even just the first day. You kissed her 3-4 times outside of challenges, and you claim you never do that. And if she, after a couple conversations, if she makes you feel comfortable, you would have told her before that you had those boundaries and you didn't want to kiss her in that moment. But you didn't do that, which tells me that you're lying. She don't make you feel comfortable because you don't really like her like that. And like I said, every single episode, there was always something that was sticking out to me about Bryan that I just was like, he's not feeling her the way she's feeling him. And you can see how he interacts with Olandria. He likes Olandria more than he likes Amaya, so why the fuck are you up in her face? Because you know that she's the favorite. That's why. That's why. But he didn't ask her, like, where's her head at, because she's been talking to Elan and been talking to Bryan. Elan comes up there as they're talking about it, and Zach then says that he wants her to do what she wants to do, what makes her happy. She deserves the world. Just saying all this bullshit, like trying to gas her up. Like, I was like, Amaya, you better catch on to this, and I'm glad she did. But we'll get to it. But she then says, like, we're on page 1 essentially. We've opened a new book. I'm still open to it because I'm not closed off, but I don't hold a grudge. But he gonna have to put in some work. That's what she told us. He gonna have to put in some work. He gonna have to actually be a man, aka you gonna have to court me. You gonna have to pursue me. You gonna have to do all of that stuff. And she does one of her analogies. I had to write it down. She says, "I'm not having a sugar rush from the word candy that you're feeding me anymore." I said, "Amaya is a trip." But Ace and Chelley, they I think this is their best conversation that they've ever had. This is the best, most genuine conversation I feel like we've gotten from Ace. I feel like Chelley's been genuine, even though people online calling them scammers or whatever. I believe Ace is scamming. To a certain degree, I can see why y'all would say Chelley is scamming, but I don't think she was scamming. I believe Chelley's been genuine, at least with Ace. But they're staring at each other, just looking at each other like they normally do. And he ends up telling her that he woke up in a great mood. She was like, I can tell you look like it. And he ends up asking her, like, what life was like growing up. So they're actually getting to know each other a little bit more personally. So she ends up talking about how she had to pretty much make the best out of every situation she had. So it sounds like she had a lot of, at least, financial strife growing up. And she talked about how they were like moving and ended up in shelters for a while. And she has a lot of siblings and she had to lean on them and they had to lean on her to get through it all. And happily, and good thing for them, their family's in a better position now, which I love hearing that. But she ends up asking him the same question. And as we know, we heard it from the beginning, at the very beginning of the season, he talked about it. But he says, like, in high school, he was going to school in a nice area, but living in the hood, essentially, like living in Watts and living in Long Beach. So it made him appreciate life. He said, like, I grew up fast because, I mean, I've been through a lot of shit. It was hard for him finding happiness in life in those situations and trying to figure out where he belongs. And she ends up agreeing as well. And I was like, that's one of the most humanistic moments I saw from Ace. Not a fan of Ace, truthfully, but I feel like for the most part, he's been genuine, even though he's playing the game. One thing I cannot take away from him, he's real. And when I say he's real, like, even with how he treated Jeremiah got out of that house and he said Ace was the one that he never questioned. He knew Ace didn't like him because Ace was very forthcoming with that shit. So in terms of that, I definitely believe Ace is genuine in that, with him being who he is. But he definitely playing the game. But I feel like him and Chelley, they might actually really like each other. For real. But she ends up telling us that he's peeling layers like every day with her, and it's making her trust him even more because it feels like he now is showing her that he trusts her. But he then tells her essentially everything happens for a reason, and she's like, yeah, it's a part of your story. We then move to Nicolandria. I know y'all are excited. And you know what? Produced. It's definitely produced. But I'm here for it for the show, I guess. For the show. Off the show, I don't know if it's going to last. Honestly, I don't think it will. But what do I know? But she checks up on him because obviously he has no Cierra at this point. He says obviously it's weird to try and navigate now. And Ace and Chelley, they're over there watching. And he ends up telling Chelley that now that Nick is single, I see Nick and Olandria pretty much rekindling what they already had. Chelley's like, I mean, it's not impossible. And he was like, don't count it out. I said, you would know. Because something tells me that Nick probably already told Ace that he probably had a crush on Olandria. And it's clear he does. Because you just see the way Nick moves with Olandria. It's a lot different than he moved with Cierra. But I'll elaborate in a minute. But Olandria then tells Nick that ever since Cierra has been there, their journey, his and Cierra's, has been their journey. It hasn't really been about Nick per se. And she was like, but I can be here for you, whatever that looks like. And he ends up telling her that he appreciates that. Ace and Chelley, they're now looking at them for real. And they're laying there on each other, smiling, watching them. They see them, Nicolandria. They see Ace and Chelley. They're smiling back. And he's like, I told you, just wave. Just smile away. That was funny. But Nick then tells Olandria that she has his back. And she's the girl that he feels the most comfortable to. He's attracted to. And it would be her, essentially, if he has to pick somebody. He appreciates that she brings out the manly side in him. And he was like, I feel like I bring out the goofy side in you. Which is true. Like I said, when they first started talking, you could tell, like, this nigga, like, sat up straight. He sat up straight. You could tell he knows when he's around Olandria, you gotta come a little bit more. You can't just be as lax and as childlike as you are with Cierra, because you don't. And that tells you what I've been saying the whole time. A man really wants a woman that's going to make him work. And when I say make him work, make him better. Look at Cierra and Nick. Nick got to do whatever the fuck he wanted to do. Because he already knew he done been inside her, essentially. And not only that, she's still coming back. 40 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 second sex. And she's wrapped around that finger. When it comes to Olandria, he got to work hard. He got to work to get something out of her. Which, like I said, when it comes to men, we don't want the woman that's easy. I mean, if you're just trying to get a you know what and scram, of course. But if you want the one that you want a wife, you want the one that you're gonna work towards, and the one that you're gonna earn. So that's basically what Nick is basically stating to her, honestly. But he then tells her that he's always appreciated her fierce loyalty. Well, he tells us this. He always appreciated her fierce loyalty. And he enjoys spending time with her. And he ends up asking if she's open to it. And she says she is. And she then says, like, her and Zach, they still have chats and whatever because she's still open to getting to know him as well. But he then asked pretty much about, like, Taylor and Clarke, essentially. And she was like, I mean, I love where they are right now. And I was happy that she gave this answer. She says, I love where they are right now. I was just more so upset with the way that Taylor treated me. And she's right to feel that way. She is right to feel that way, which is why I said that she wasn't wrong for crashing the fuck out on him in that challenge that they had last week. People were saying that she embarrassed herself. I don't feel like she did. In that moment, I felt like she needed to tell him that shit. Even though it looks like who really gives a fuck because he really don't give a fuck. But she needed to let him know that, like, nigga, you don't, like, you played in my face, and I'm gonna let you know now, fuck you, like, fuck you. But she says that she loves and she supports like him and Clarke, and she could tell that they are in a good place. But he then asked how she felt about them being last, and she said it felt great. And they both started laughing. This part right here had me laughing. She said, I don't know why you asked me that question thinking I was going to be fake as fuck when you know I'm the realest bitch here. I died laughing. That shit was so funny. They both were cracking up for a minute. She was like, you thought I was going to give you some PC and PR answer. Ain't going to happen. Hell nah. I was dying laughing. That shit was so funny. We then moved to Amaya and Elan. Again, produced very much on Elan's end, but they're talking about something about him. Like I said, something about him. Well, I didn't say this, but I was thinking this. Something about Elan just gives me awkward vibes. I don't know what it is. I can't pinpoint it, but just watching him interact is just kind of awkward. Maybe he's socially awkward. I don't know. But they start talking about their morning. She thanks him for breakfast, and she ends up asking him, "What is your favorite type of food?" Like, you can tell this is just like, we're just gonna have a conversation because I need to have a conversation. And he talks about Latin food. She likes tacos. He likes tacos. They start talking about their favorite dishes, all that stupid shit. Like I said, it's very performative, especially on Elan's end. You can tell he's trying to rush this connection with her to try and stay on the show, just like Zach, which right here proved to me that Bryan was definitely going to be the choice. I already knew that was the right choice, but I was like, just looking at their conversations that she's had, all the guys' conversations that they've had with Amaya, his was the most natural. And you could tell she was going to pick him because he was the only one that she kissed in all of these challenges too, in these conversations too. But they start talking, and just one of the funniest moments though, she said she wanted to, her biggest fear is getting old and aging, and she wants to be that 80-year-old grandma that's doing handstands. And I was dying laughing at the thought of her doing that at 80 years old. You could see her doing it. But he pretty much tells us that he likes the energy that she gives him. But they start talking about being adventurous and whatnot. And she tells him that she might go skydiving after this because if I can survive Love Island, I can survive die skying. When she said that, I died because I watched the TV with closed captions, so I make sure I get everything that's being stated. And they literally said die skydiving. That shit had me hollering. But Olandria and Zach, they're having a conversation, and he's pretty much talking about how he takes care of his family. She was like, you check off that protector, that provider box that's on my list. And she was like, it doesn't mean that I need you to take care of me financially per se, but like, I got my money, I got pretty much everything that I'm going to be able to do. The bill's going to get paid, but I just need that emotional support, and that goes a long way. And he's like, I can provide that. And he says he also can fix shit around the house, doing things that a man should be able to do. So she then asks, like, what do you want in a woman? And he says he wants somebody who gets him and who loves him. And he says that a woman that is all about him and he's all about her. I said, oh, kind of how Amaya was all about you, but you weren't all about her. But I mean, I get it. But Olandria then tells us that she loves talking to him and that they match on so many things, and she thinks he's cute. But he then tells her that he fucks with her, and he looks at her and says that he wants to kiss her, which also, again, proved to me that you're full of shit. Because you didn't do that shit with Amaya. He sat up there trying to make Amaya seem like his number one, but the one that you really want is Olandria. Like, that's clear as day. But the fact that you didn't really pursue her as hard as you was just recently trying to pursue Amaya, just let it be known that you was here for the game. That's really what it is. But we then get Amaya and Huda. They're having a conversation, and Huda gets a text that tells them about the recoupling. The girls will be choosing, and the boys not picked are single and vulnerable, which we know they're going to eventually get dumped. But Zach, he's nervous, obviously. Huda ends up asking Amaya, like, what's her biggest standouts between the three. Amaya says Bryan stood up for her. Zach, she's physically attracted to at first. Elan is sweet. In this moment, I was like, it's between Bryan and Zach, which obviously it should be Bryan. So everybody else is talking about how Amaya's got the biggest choice and the biggest decision. So Chris is over there telling Huda that he's worried about his boys. Pretty much all three of them are on the line. And Elan is telling Amaya that he wants to focus on her. Again, trying to stay in the game. Zach tells Amaya that he wants her, that she makes him feel safe, and that he feels like he can be himself around her and he'll support whatever decision she makes. Again, performing. Bryan, on the other hand, tells her, like, you a popular girl in here. Basically, I know you getting pulled for chats, but I just want you to know I'm going to be me, and I want you to be you. The realest of the three. The most genuine of the three. He's not performing. Like, he knows that if she chooses him, that's the right move for him and her. But if she doesn't, it is what it is. Like, he's not sitting here trying to, you can tell Bryan's just going with the flow. And it's natural. Whereas if he was playing a game, he would have been laying it super thick. And he hadn't been really laying it thick. Like, he was just being himself. Bryan, so far this entire time that we've seen him, he's been laid back the entire time. And he's been consistent. Whereas the other two, we've seen differences in their personalities. Bryan's has been the most consistent the entire time, which is why I don't believe that he's playing a game. I could be getting hoodwinked, but I don't. I don't think that. And I typically have a good judge of character. And my first intuition is always right. And I'm not getting a gaming vibe, but we'll see. But everybody else gets ready for the night. Amaya's telling the girls that she is stressed. It's the nighttime mingle time. Chelley does the toast. Nick and Olandria, they go to the dock. Nick says, I'm going to pull you somewhere special. I said, oh, so you going to you and Cierra's special spot, as she stated? I said, oh, interesting. But he's wiping the seat down for her and everything, doing all this shit that I ain't ever seen him do with Cierra. I said, oh, he really likes her. And he knows what he got to do when it comes to her. Like, she's not, Olandria, like I said, she need a CEO. And to my knowledge, Nick ain't that. So he know he got to really step it up. But they start talking about the recoupling. And he's like, you're the sweetest person here. I would love to continue to get to know you, keep getting to know you and having each other's back. And she says, like, you bring out the things, he says that you bring out the things in me that I don't normally see. And she says that seeing his face after Casa Amor brought her comfort. And they essentially start talking about how, like, their paths are kind of similar and they always end up back together. That's production, but I mean, whatever. You could take it as what it is now, but that's production, to be completely honest with you. But they're pretty much talking about that. Like, maybe we overlooked something that could have been here, which, I mean, there could be something there. It could be something there. I don't know. It's definitely manipulated, but we'll see. But that's pretty much what they're stating. And he's like, whatever you decide, I'm going to be happy because I'm happy being in your presence. Like, I'm happy in your presence and getting to know you. They hug. Ariana comes in. It's time to go to the fire pit. It's time to recouple. She lets them know anybody not in a couple is leaving tonight. Zach's draws like, yeah, nigga, get ready to pack your shit. But the girls, they stand up one at a time. Chelley goes, she chooses Ace. No shock there. Clarke goes, she chooses Taylor. No shock there. Huda goes, she chooses Chris. No shock there. Iris goes, she chooses Pepe. No shock there. So we get to the two decisions that were surprising, or at least not surprising, suspenseful, which weren't really suspenseful. Even though the last one was, I knew what the right answer was going to be. You just never know, though. Olandria's was obvious. She says, this boy expressed how much he values me as a person, our bond, his quirky personality, and I'm excited to spend the rest of my days in here with him. And that was who? Nick. He starts clicking his heels going over there, and then he sits down and says that they're going to focus on each other. And they're going to give it 100% this time and take care of her. He wants to take care of her as best as he can. And now that his strong connection is gone and her strongest connection is no longer there, essentially, they're gonna give it 100%. So we'll see where that goes. But Amaya, she's last up. She says she's nervous. I said, Amaya, don't cry. And she didn't. I was proud of her. But she did says that it's been a pleasure getting to know the three guys. She says that she's going to follow her gut and her intuition. I said, okay, I can relax. Because I said if she chooses anybody but Bryan, it's going to be a mistake. It's going to be a mistake. But she says she's going to couple up with the boy because he recognized her for the queen that she is. I said, okay, thank you. She's going to choose Bryan. And everything else that she said just reassured it. She says he does not make her dim her light. She can be who she wants to be. She can be who she is. She says it's not about just being platonic. She feels like he understands her in different ways. Like I said, they have the same culture. There's just certain things that he's going to understand about her that some people wouldn't. The other ones in the house, they don't have that. They don't share that same culture that they do. She says he's the water to her fire, which we know that is true. He's calm. She's very lively. And she chooses Bryan. And Bryan says that he felt amazing hearing those things that she said. It reassures him. And he says that he wants her to be unapologetically herself, which he's been consistent with before the vote. Y'all can say what y'all want to say, but he's been consistent with it. And he said, like, she provides a safe space for him. Even though he was trying to do that for her, she does that same thing for him, too. And I was like, okay, this is good. Like to hear it. But Amaya says this is the first time that she's felt her face getting hot, a.k.a. she can't stop smiling. And she feels safe and protected with him, and everybody loves it. Like I said, first time she has not cried. But Zach and Elan, they're gone. Scammers are gone. Even though we got a couple still left. But we'll get to it. But the girls, they're asking Amaya how she's feeling. She's feeling good. She said our connection is fresh, but something is beautiful growing between it. Chelley says, I can tell. They then moved to Olandria. She's talking about how funny it is, how they got back together again. And she's like, I mean, it's truly what it is. It's what it's supposed to be, I guess. And maybe it was supposed to be us all along. Chelley then says that she loves how all the connections that are currently, at least most of the connections that are here, were really rooted in friendship. But that's what happens there. Nick and Olandria, they finished going to the dock, pretty much stating the same thing. Like what they said in the first conversation, kind of built on it. They're basically still open to really exploring what possibly could be there. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, honestly. But that was the episode. Y'all let me know what y'all think down below. Thumbs up the video. Thumbs it up. Let's try and get 1,000. Get in the comments. Share the video. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.